Sean Ryan would like to say a few words.
So I stopped taking my pain meds around 11 today, so I just want to kind of preempt, and I don't have any kind of jokes or anything to start, but I want to welcome everybody here this evening. It's a great night coming out for our community and our school system, and I want to recognize Amanda as our newest board member, and also we had also inducted Cheryl McGinnis, but having Amanda get through the motions already, she's been just a tiger when it comes to getting understanding the bigger flow of the school district. The entire team has been really excited about getting her to come aboard and bring her up to speed as quickly as we can. And we're super excited collectively to move forward together. So I appreciate everybody coming out tonight to celebrate. And we're very excited about moving forward. So congratulations, Amanda, and I'll let John turn for our speaker. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome up State Representative Mike Harris.
Good evening. It's great to be here on such a festivus occasion. So we do have some great people in the audience that I'm sure many of you will recognize the names, and I'd like to acknowledge them. From Jose Aliaga's office, we have Jennifer Spiegel. She's the Deputy Supervisor of Independence Township. We have former state representative and Clarkston school employee, Jim Tedder. Everybody knows former Senator Matt Danaskis. We have the Honorable Terry Lynn Land, former Secretary of State. We have State Representative Donnie Steele with us. Independence Trustee Sam Morocco. Independence Township Trustee Terry Nalamothu. And representing Congresswoman Lisa McLean, we have Mike McLean here. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Everybody should understand there's a huge correlation between what we can do at the state level and helping out our public education. And that's a partnership that I really want to have here with the Clarkston School Board. And I appreciate those of you who have already reached out, and we've talked a little bit about what the future holds and how we can make some positive changes for Clarkston. So with that, I will turn it back over to the Assistant Superintendent. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to have the Honorable Terry Lynn Land, former Secretary of State and current Wayne State University Governor, to come up.
Well, thank you, and wow, what a crowd, Mandy. I'm not sure I had this many people when I first started. But that's really a testament to you. And as some of you may know, Mandy and I have known each other for a long time. When I was Secretary of State, I had the opportunity to have a lot of interns work with me in the Secretary of State's office. And a lot of times, they'd be my driver. So Mandy got that lovely opportunity to be my driver. So I had the opportunity to meet and understand who Mandy was too. And I know her mom's here and her sister's here, and I remember them from back then too. And she was always very positive. She always was very creative. I enjoyed talking to her about some of the issues because she had an idea, and she really was motivated and wanted to do a good job. And I was always so proud of her. Get a little emotional here. But then when she called me and said she was interested in running for the school board, I was very excited. I said, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's see what we can make a difference, because I know that's very important to Mandy. She really has a great heart. She really cares, and she's very thoughtful. So you other board members up here, I want you to know that she will be very thoughtful in her decision-making process. So again, I'm just very happy to be here. I have a little Wayne State pin on, so thank you. And so for us at Wayne State, obviously we want you to graduate great students that can now go on to Wayne State. So I'm very honored to also serve on that board, and now very honored to see that, and proud that Mandy's going to serve on your board. So congratulations, Mandy.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the current the president of the Board of Education, Kelly Horst, and invite her to come up, as well as the Honorable Judge Michael Warren from Oakland County Circuit Court, and also Trustee Love to come forward.
Before we begin, I just want to say how honored I am to be part of this. I'm going to have this, for once, not actually going to do the oath. I have the more important role of holding our sacred scripture. But I wanted to say a couple of words before we begin. You really learn a lot about somebody when you spend hours upon hours on the campaign trail with them. And I can, for those of you that have had to go through that, I know there's a lot of good here. It's quite an amazing experience, and it was really a great pleasure to get to know Amanda, Mandy, however you want to call her, Ms. Love, Trustee Love. She's fabulous. She's very committed, passionate, hard worker. I do have to do the caveat that I've lost the first segment, including nonpartisan candidates of this nature, but I'm here as her friend, as her supporter in her life. I think that she really has a very, very bright future in public service, wherever that may take her. Now, you know, some of you know Judge Morris, you know it's coming. So I have to. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that automatically equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the government. Now, in any form of government constructed these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, to establish new government, laying the foundations of principles and organizing powers such form to them should seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. The reason why those amazingly poetic words and declaration of independence are so important today is that that formed the social contract, right? What our country is about. The right to alter or abolish. And our democracy, or our democratic republic, to be a little bit more astute about that, right? Is that we have the choice to elect people, and they become our servants. They're not in charge of us. They don't lord over us. They're our servants. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire, but they have a responsibility to make sure that they're representing the people and making sure great public policy comes forward. And we know that Trustee Love is one of those people that will take that obligation extraordinarily seriously, and that we can expect whatever she does on the board will be from her heart and her intellect and through her hard work, and that she will not let the people down in connection with that sacred trust. And with that, I'll turn
for coming, everyone, and supporting Amanda and supporting Clarkston Schools. We do have about 15 minutes before we have to start our meeting at 7, and that's a hard start, so I appreciate everyone being here and being brief with your remarks. But I know we do want to take some pictures, so Amanda, if you could get your family up here. I know Clarkston Schools wants to take some pictures. I have a feeling there's some other people in the audience who may want to take some pictures. And certainly you're all invited to welcome to stay for our meeting at 7 and see what we're going to talk about tonight on behalf of your public school district. Thank you so much for coming. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Crane.
Here.
Ms. Catalina.
Here.
Mrs. McGinnis. Mrs. Love.
Here.
Mr. Heyer.
Here.
Mrs. Egan.
Here.
Mrs. Horst.
Here. Mrs. McGinnis sends her regrets tonight. Obviously, this was a night she's supposed to be sworn in as well. Unfortunately, she is tending to a gravely ill family member. And so we send our love and our thoughts and our prayers to the McGinnis family this evening. Next up is our oath of office. Trustee Love, if you'll join me down at this podium here. Item 1.4 is election of board vice president. The floor is now open for nominations.
Madam President, I would like to nominate Mrs. Elizabeth Egan for the role of the office of Vice President.
I'll move to close nominations.
Since we only have one nominee for the position, we can do that with a voice vote. All in favor of Elizabeth Egan?
We should vote to close nominations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then we can voice vote.
I'm good at this in July. This is throwing me off in January. All in favor of closing nominations for the office of Vice President, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, thank you, Mr. Heyer. Now, given that there's only one nominee for the office of Vice President, we can do that with a voice vote. All in favor of Elizabeth Egan fulfilling the position of Vice President, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Mrs. Egan. Appreciate you. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion? Motion, please.
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay. Mrs. McLean, I need a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Catalina. Mr. Heyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis. Mrs. Horst.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3 is citizens' request to address the board. You are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under item 3.1, you can request to address the board about any topic that is on tonight's agenda, or under item 9, you're welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address and direct your comments to Kelly Horst, Board President. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes. Per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment. And so at this time, if you wish to address the board on an agenda item, now is the time to sign up. There's a blue sheet of paper over on the side table. The sign-up sheet will remain out during the meeting if anyone decides they wish to address the board when we get to item 9. Mr. Lucido, if you wouldn't mind, could you see if there's anyone who has signed up so far? Thank you very much. And while the sign-up sheet was retrieved, I do want to state that complaints about or against individual Clarkston Schools employees in an open session are inappropriate and will be stopped if made in order to ensure that the rights of the individual involved are protected. Anyone who wants to make such a complaint or engage in such criticism must first contact the superintendent or his designee to determine the appropriate process for doing so. Please keep your remarks and your attention directed to the full board and speak to either an agenda item or a matter of public concern. And before I do this, I realized I didn't let Mrs. Love introduce her family, did I? I barreled right through that. Are they still here? I think everyone would like to meet your family. I'm going to pause for a moment then and allow you to do that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Please,
I think
share who's here with you.
Yeah, my husband and my older 2 sons are here. The little's bedtime was coming, so they fell apart. But Talon and Carter, are they? Oh, did they just leave? Oh, okay. Never mind. They're not here. But that's my great husband, Sam Love. He's here.
Hello,
He
Mr.
is
Love.
So he's awesome. He is a social worker at Grand Blanc High School. So he's a great support system to have and great insight on school-related issues. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 4 is superintendent update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you, President Horst. First of all, again, congratulations to Amanda, Cheryl, and it's nice to see Amanda's family and our crowd out tonight to celebrate this momentous transition here that we have here in Clarkston this January, and also let everybody know that we're full force back in school. It's amazing to think that we just hit the halfway point in the school year, and that now we're equal distant to the downward climb, as our students will tell you, to hit to June and looking at completing another year, which is kind of amazing to think that that's where we are already. Quickly, we're going to be transitioning, getting ready for already next school year. On February 15th, we're going to be hosting our Kindergarten Information Night, bringing all of our community's incoming kindergarten parents together to celebrate and give them information, which is exciting. And our enrollment opens on February 22nd, so we're looking at really kind of charging up for a new school year. Additionally, and it'll be part of our first presentation item that I'll transition to in a minute, but you know, we're getting to recognize in this fine night our Clarkston School Board and everything they do. So excited about that, and again, I welcome everybody here for a great meeting this evening.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. We'll move on to presentation items. 5.1 is School Board Recognition Month. Dr. Ryan?
Thank you. And first, I want to bring up our representative from our Clarkston Education Association to say a couple words as it relates to school boards, and then I'll kind of close down on behalf of district and administration.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. President Horst and board members, I'm here on behalf of the Clarkston Education Association to say thank you for all that you do as members of the Clarkston Community School Board of Education. As you know, January is School Board Appreciation Month, and the CA wants you to know how much we appreciate what you do in guiding district policy and supporting your teachers and staff as we educate the children of this community. There really aren't enough words to adequately express the value that you guys have in your roles, so thank you. In recognition of your commitment to our schools and our community, and in honor of School Board Appreciation Month, the CEA will be donating a book in your name to the Learning Commons in each of our school buildings. Again, on behalf of the CEA and all of its members, thank you so much for everything that you do to move Clarkston Community Schools forward and provide our students with a quality public education. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
And on behalf of our administration and our school district and our entire team, and giving my gratitude out to our school board and everything they bring every month, and whether members of our audience, both in this room and watching at home on TV, realize that on a monthly basis, our Board of Education receives packets that are in the hundreds of pages of different things to evaluate on behalf of the school district. They do an amazing job. It requires an incredible amount of time, and it is, for all intents and purposes, a volunteer position within government. And knowing at how America and looking at government as a whole, I've been extremely happy to see, looking at this Board of Education as one that has not only invested the time, but has been a functioning member of government. And obviously, as we look at it as an integral part with our community, they have worked tirelessly to kind of keep ahead of a myriad of different issues over the years. And I really applaud each and one of them in terms of their not only the time spent, but their ability to really process and dive into different situations and challenges. And I can say it'll be really nice when welcoming Amanda to this team, but this team is one that really does not shy away from any challenge. And I applaud their work on behalf of our staff, our community, and most importantly, the students of Clarkston Community Schools. You guys do an amazing job, and I just want to applaud you, give me 100% respect, and I know on behalf of the entire team, we absolutely couldn't do the wonderful things that we have going on in Clarkston without you, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. That's much appreciated. Item 5.2 is presentation of donation from Farm Bureau Insurance. And I'll bring up Stacy Puzio and Jeff Rowland.
Good evening. I'm thankful to be here with Mr. Jeff Rowland. He is a district parent, and he's also a agent for Farm Bureau Insurance. And he contacted us and said, you know, we have a grant that helps to support food for those who are in need in communities. I'm wondering if that's something that you might be interested in. And so we got together and we thought about something, and we recognized that there's in Rochester, they have a very similar program, and we liked this idea of creating a shed that will have a refrigerator that can withstand the temperatures of outside and have some shelving with food, and so we could have real food, fresh food available for those who are in need. And so the grant that we received from Farm Bureau is $2,500 that will allow us to purchase the refrigerator as well as to stock the refrigerator and that shelf with some food. And we've also then secured some other grants as well to help build the shed that our actually construction tech kiddos will be doing for us as well, and that will be at Renaissance High School. So we're very thankful for this, and so I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Rowland, again, a district parent here as well as a Farm Bureau Insurance agent.
Thank you for having me. This project is near and dear to all agents and Farm Bureau's hearts. Not only do we donate our time, we also donate, we always donate our money, we also donate our time in the ACF and trying to fight childhood hunger here in Michigan. It's our number one goal, and we won't stop until it happens. So I would like to present $2,500 check to Clarkston Community Schools to help fund one project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so appreciated. When we have parents who are involved and bring their corporate generosity to bear, and I'm glad we were able to facilitate that partnership. And it's sad to us that we need something like that in our community, but that we have partners that are able to help us meet that need is so appreciated. So Jeff, thank you so very much. Item 5.3 is our student spotlight this month. We have a very unique art partnership to talk about. Mrs. Mahoney will tell us more.
Good evening, Board of Education and our community. It's always fun when our kids are able to attend board meetings and just to, I think, super shine with the great things that we do and see our teachers and their smiles too. So this is a beautiful partnership that we have focusing on art, and it connects our kindergarten students with the high school. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Kelly, who is our subject area coordinator for art.
Hi, thank you for having us today. We're really excited to be here. I'm here with Katie Eaton, who is the art teacher at Pine Knob Elementary, and Meg Messina, who is the art teacher at Clarkston High School. And I am, my home school is Springfield Wings Elementary. The Kindergarten Transformation Project is something that our district has been doing now for 8 years. It started in 2015, and it's a real point of pride of our spring art show every year because it brings our kindergarten students and our high school students together with a really unique collaboration. We actually have sort of evolved throughout the years, and in 2017 we took this project to Art Prize in Grand Rapids, which was what you see over here, the canvases along the wall. This is a take on this project that has been continuing to grow and shine for the last 8 years. I'm going to hand it over to Meg to talk a little bit more about the assignment and the process. And then Katie will talk about how we took it even a step further, connecting the students this year at Pine Knob.
Nicole Kaplan-Rudolph and I, she's the other art teacher at the high school, have been doing this, as Ryan said, for about 8 years. And we first got the idea, I think we were looking online and we saw a parent who had taken his child's artwork and was transforming it, and I think he was actually making toys out of his kindergartner's drawings. And so we thought, well, why don't we try something like that and partner with the kindergartners in the district? So every year, a different elementary school joins us with this collaboration, and this year was Pine Knob. And we asked that the art teachers just at the elementary schools present this to their kids with draw a favorite person, place, thing, very broad. We don't want anything real specific because, well, kindergartners don't really need that, right? They're full of great ideas. And then those drawings come to us at the high school, and we pass them out to our high schoolers in the digital illustration classes, painting classes, and advanced drawing and painting classes. So our students select a drawing, and then they're told that their challenge is that they have to use the exact drawing that the kindergartner created, but that they have to add on to it and transform it and add color and shading and texture and background, and they can basically take it anywhere they want to take it. It can be funny, it can be scary, as long as they're using the original drawing. And so that's what you're going to see tonight. There's some great examples.
The first couple slides. There we go. These are past examples. This is one that actually went to art prize. So on the left, you'll see the kindergarten drawing, and on the right is the recreation from the high school student. And then these photos are featured from past art shows here in the spring, where we have our K-12 showcase here at the board office, and it's the kindergarten artist with the high school artist next to their recreations featured in the show.
Yes, please, because we do broadcast this. So for folks watching at home, they want to hear you too.
All right, so this is from this year. We have Griffin Cranston from kindergarten and Leah Stump from high school. And Griffin is here tonight. We will meet some of the artists, the superstars, in just a moment. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about what else happened this year and with the meet and greet. So here's one more example. As you can see, just really simple for the kindergarten drawings. I ask for no color, but I do let their imaginations just kind of run wild, and whatever they want to draw can be given to the high schoolers to enhance in lots of different ways. So the meet and greet was on Tuesday, January 10th, and it was from 9 to 11 in the cafeteria at Pine Knob. We were so lucky to get some support from our PTA to get buses and some food and refreshments. So the artists, the high schoolers and the kindergartners were able to share a breakfast snack, and then they did an About the Artist sheet, which I'll show in a moment, and then they did an art activity together. So when the high schoolers first arrived, they shared a snack with the kindergarten buddies. They got all paired up, and we just let them talk for a little bit. I did put little sheets out there for conversation starters, but I feel like a lot of artists didn't use it. It was really cool to just see the high schoolers having conversations with the kindergartners and where that went. After they shared a snack together, we did an About the Artist sheet. So on the About the Artist sheet, they filled out things like self-portraits, favorite color, favorite part about art class, and it was really cool because the kindergartners kind of took charge over the whole thing, which I loved. So the high schoolers were there to guide and fill a few things out as well, but I really love to see the kindergartners take charge of that. So that's just a close-up of one of the examples. After they did the About the Artist, they had a sculpture. They were building a little sculpture together. And we just basically were asking for a freestanding sculpture, but really the whatever they decided to make was up to them as long as they worked together as a team. So we saw lots of really cool animals, different food, different places, and the art activity went really well as well. So we were able to get a big group shot. So there's everybody all together. And my favorite part, we made the news. We were in the news, the Clarkston news, and I just think that's really exciting to get the word out about our art department to our community as well. And I really would love to introduce some of the superstars of the show, our artists. Would you guys mind coming up and talking a little bit about your artwork? So I think we'll start with Thomas first. Thomas, maybe say what grade you're in.
Hi, I am Thomas Vargas. I am in 10th grade. On the left from where I'm standing, that is my recreation of what my kindergartner Oakley did. On the right, when I was younger, I went to PKE, and it was really exciting and fun to go back there, see how it's changed, how it hasn't, how the teachers have led the great examples on to the young art students. And I remember as a kindergartner really loving, getting into the world of my imagination. I loved animals, I loved colors, just anything kind of out of the ordinary. So that's kind of how I took my art. So I drew a bunch of animals from Oakley's food that she drew, and then I also added in a bunch of colorful shapes because I remember liking that as a kid. And there was really no set ground, but I think that's part of what makes it so special, unique, and interesting is the fact that I was able to let my imagination fly through Oakley. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Nice.
And next we have Malaya coming up, one of our high school students.
I'm a senior at CHS. That was my kindergartner whose drawing that I had transformed. I had been given a robot, and I decided I wanted to make a marine kind of scene, but I also wanted to keep some of the aspects of the original drawing. So I decided to make it a robot octopus, and yeah, I just thought this project was really cool because we were given a lot of creative freedom. I would say as much as the kindergartners were given when they were given that assignment, we really could do whatever we wanted as long as we kept the basic structure of what the kindergartner had done. And yeah, what I really liked about this project was that we actually got to meet the original artists, and that was really cool because I felt like that made the project really personal, and it was unlike any other project I've ever done in an art class. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Next up, we have the kindergarten artist, Bailey. Should I just do one of these?
Sure.
All right. Do you want to say anything about the day or your artwork, or do you want me to ask questions? How do you
I like just loved it all. But my most favorite part was when we did the clay and the talking.
And what kind of art do you make at home?
Well, sometimes I do paintings, drawings, like that stuff. I can't. There's a lot of things that I do. I can't say all of that.
That's a lot. That's too much to list. Do you remember the original drawing that you gave to Trisha? Or I don't have a picture of it. I'm so sorry.
I think some of it was food, and a robot.
What Prova too. Awesome. Is there anything else you want to mention about that day or anything else to say about it?
I just loved it.
Thank you, Bailey. And my next kindergarten artist is Griffin to come on up. This is Griffin. Griffin, do you remember that day? What was your favorite part about it?
My favorite part was coloring.
Was coloring? And what did you two make together? You and Leah, right? What did you make with the sculpture? Do you remember? Oh, you don't remember? Was it an animal or something? Was it a giraffe? You want to say it in here?
A giraffe.
A giraffe. And you had a good time with Leah? Yeah, let me show the picture of your original. Do you remember making that drawing?
Mhm.
What did you make? Go ahead and talk in there.
I just made Leah and me.
That's Leah and you? Oh, that's super cute. Anything else that you want to say about that day? Did you have a good day that time on the event? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Griffin.
So what did Griffin think when he saw the finished picture that Leah made?
Oh, that's a good question. What did you think about her finished picture? No. It was a lot different than the first one, huh? The one that you made? Yeah? You don't have anything to say about the new one, though? All right. So, thank you. You can head down.
Thank you.
That leads into this. I was going to ask if there's any questions for our artists, but I think that's the last thing that I had to mention about the whole
Trustees,
event.
any other questions for the artists? So did they come back together? I'm sorry, explain, like, and unveil sort of the senior version of the art?
So this year is the first year we've ever actually been able to bring the high schoolers to the elementary school to meet their kindergarten muse. And we're hoping to continue this as a mini field trip because I think it really helped not only the kids to connect, but the kindergartners to realize that they can grow and where they can be with their art. And it was really cool. I think all students involved were thrilled. Everybody that was there was full of energy. So we're hoping to continue this when it goes to different elementary schools because we rotate through the 7 elementary schools that participate each year. In the spring at our district show, we always have multiple boards that showcase the specific project. And a lot of times that's when the kindergarten students will see the finished product from the high school student. Were there some students high schoolers that brought their finished work to the High Knob?
Thomas was the only one. It was so smart of you, Thomas. We didn't think to ask them to do that.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll continue this meet and greet and then maybe we'll keep enhancing it and make sure that those high school students maybe can bring their finished art with them and continue that connection.
Mrs. Egan?
I would just love to see, you know how we have that mural downtown or the art on display? If we could incorporate some of this. I just think it's so wonderful to see, you know, how often do kindergartners get to put their work on display, right? Except at home on the refrigerator. So it's something like this, I think it's just a great project. I just think we should share it with the public or maybe at the art show when we have the art show.
Yeah, it's been in the art show every year.
Yeah.
But yeah, to put it right in the community too would be pretty awesome.
Side by side because I've never noticed this
Mhm.
before. I've never noticed this.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And now we can be about the artist sheet too to show the collaboration.
That's true. That's good.
Terrific. Well, we'll certainly look for them when we have the district art show here this spring. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming too. We appreciate you coming to the boardroom tonight and talking to us. It's the highlight of our night when students can come and to see both, seniors and high school students that are near the end of their time with us here in Clarkston schools, and then our little kindergartners who are just beginning their learning journey. Oh boy, that's very exciting for us. So thank you all for coming tonight and spending some time with the board. Item 5.4 is our construction technology program update, and I will introduce Mr. Wyckoff and Mr. Goring.
And as a nice transition and continuation with our earlier agenda item with our Board Appreciation Month, if you don't mind holding up, part of our gift was actually from, and I wanted the gentleman to be up here, they're students who made cutting boards for our board members, which are absolutely incredible. So
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
And that was before they knew they were doing this presentation, so you should that's a fact.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for inviting us here tonight, and I'd like to thank you for allowing us to offer the construction technology program to the students of Clarkston. I'm Neil Granlund. The kids call me Mr., or just recently Big Daddy G, and I had to ask what that was all about. They said, "You're like the grandpa we never had." So I'm grateful to be with these students. They are wonderful students to work with. This program started in 2017. 5.5 years ago, I was asked to return out of retirement. I started here in Clarkston 55 years ago, and to take over on a long-term sub job. I've been here 5.5 years now. I love the program so much that I just keep coming back. I just love it. These kids are great to work with. We started off with 9th and 10th graders to initially start the program. Many of these 9th and 10th graders sent me Christmas wishes. These are just wonderful kids to work with. We offer them hands-on learning opportunities that they can't get in many of the other areas, and we offer them career opportunities through a number of our supporters and companies that will come in to do presentations, and it is just wonderful to be here with these kids. Right now we have 2 projects that are going on, working with the Bailey House, and that I just toured today because I have to stay back. I do aid both of our other instructors here, and Steve Wyckoff here is working with the Bailey House. The students back at Clarkston Junior High School are working with Mr. Adam Goring here, and I assist both of them in anything that they do need, and very happy to be there. The other program we have is we've been waiting to move on with that and the progress at Sashaba Presbyterian Church, which will be a community center when it's complete. And we also help out in the community with other projects we've had. What was it, Habitat for with the Grove Farm? Well, anyway, when we're needed, we are there to help out. And then down at the ice rink and the Optimist Club down at the Depot Park. The program started in the lab at the junior high school, which was an architectural lab. That's what they all see it as. But I started 55 years ago. I signed my first contract in that room, and it was a metal shop. That was the metal shop. Now it is masonry work, and you've got to come and visit it and see what's going on there. It's just amazing. Mr. Wyckoff has done a wonderful job with that. The other one was the machine shop and welding, and I taught welding in the other room that we have. I do have to say we are getting very crowded because when I first came here, I was teaching architectural drawing and blueprint reading, and we offered that to our students in the tech program, and it's helped a lot of them. But right now we're really crowded for space, and we're trying to fit in as much of it as we possibly can. The facilities that we have here right now, we make the best of those, and we have a lot of great things going on, and it keeps expanding them. Now the next part is Mr. Wyckoff.
Thank you, Neil. Only stole half my thunder. How's it going? Currently we have 70 plus students. We have second third, and fourth year students in our afternoon classes. I have approximately 20. Mr. Gorin has approximately 23-ish, I'm guessing. Our first two sessions, which are 2 hours long, are both full with 9th and 10th graders. We're going through first year lessons, which include OSHA 10, tool identification, how to use a tool, how to put a Band-Aid on, etc. So once they get through all this stuff, it's an advancement. Every year, we want to do a little bit more. We also work heavily with the Optimists. We're part of their flags program. I'm sure everybody's seen all the flags out there on Main Street in the neighborhoods. Well, we do a little bit of that. As Neil mentioned, we're part of the ice rink down at Depot Park, and recently with a partnership between the Friends of Depot Park, the Optimists, and our program, we're working on a children's bridge over the River Garden. I can't even remember right now. So we've been working on that. And there's so many activities in Clarkston, we didn't get to start working on that until it got a little bit colder. And I really like working in the cold because then I can tell which students really want to be there. And as a matter of fact, I even asked for volunteers on Saturday, and I could not believe how many kids showed up. So we must be doing something right. If they want to get up early, come in and eat a stale donut, work in the cold 2 Saturdays ago, which I know we all know how cold that was, until noon. So we've got to be doing something right. And we've had 3 graduating classes. I was counting up and writing down some notes. We have, I believe, 12 students going to either Eastern Michigan, Northern Michigan, or Ferris State in construction management programs. We have one young lady down at Wayne State going into civil engineering. Once again, it's proof in the pudding. We're doing the right stuff. We have approximately 8 kids in the union. We have 2 linemen. We have 2 carpenters. Maybe some of you are going to remember his name, Jagger Woody. He's graduating from Northern and has found his passion, which is welding. He's got a job either in the UP or downstate as a pipe fitter. You never would have thought that when he was a freshman. He couldn't do anything in his line. So, once again, we're doing the right stuff. These are the kids who learn from the fingertips back. So, I want to thank Neil and Adam. They're awesome to work with. They got passion, I got passion. But we want to expand that passion. So we're here to let the tallest member of the team ask a question.
Thank you. As I said, I'm Adam Goring. I'm the latest addition. As you can tell, we got a little bit of a pattern going here down the line for the expansion as we're moving on down the line into the future of the program. So, as we look forward into the expansion, we've already got 2 instructors just recently joined the district 2 years ago, and I'm loving it here at Clarkston. I see a lot of great potential, and the future's looking bright. But we've got the 2 of us. We've got Mr. here. We've got 2 shop spaces now. As he said, we started in the welding lab. It's expanded out. We're going into additional space, and also obviously the junior high project that's going to be breaking ground here in the next, hopefully, couple of years. And we're really hopeful and thankful for that opportunity as well. We've got a lot of different things going on around outside of the building as well. We've got a project house, a lumber staging area that we've been working on this year, and we're looking forward to seeing where things go from there. A lot of our students are involved. You can see in the picture up above there, they've got the nice red suit jackets on. That's our skills program, and what's going on there is that they're taking the skills that they're learning in our program, whether it's carpentry, electrical, plumbing, and they're applying it into a competition with other schools, other districts, to see where they stand. And last year we had a state champion and a national placer at 6th place with Mr. Joe Smothers, if you remember that name. So as we look in the future, we are looking at trying to get more of our students out into the field. We have expanded membership in our competition. We have expanded membership in our classrooms. The enrollment is growing. We've got the talent, we've got the leadership, and we could run 2 crews simultaneously. So we could have one crew working at the Bailey House and one crew working at the church or another community-related project that we'd like to offer that as a possibility. But in order to do that, right now we have 1 vehicle. We would like to have another vehicle and trailer combination, because when we're on site, what we have going on there is our classroom is on those wheels, that van, that trailer is going to be carrying our tools, our equipment, and if it's raining, snowing, something gets canceled, material doesn't get delivered, we can still operate our classroom through that. So as we look into the future, we see potential in new home builds and other community-related projects. An investment like this would be a great investment in our future and the continued tradition of success that we have with the Clarkston Construction Trades Program. We thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. This is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the gems in our district, and the growth that it's seen in the last handful of years is just amazing. And I know we look forward to hearing more about it. We've all seen the facility. I believe Mr. Wyckoff has actually asked me a few times to put my hand in that machine that stops on a dime, and I haven't been quite brave enough to do it yet, but it's absolutely one of the most amazing programs we have. I think it's the envy of the state, quite honestly. So we're so grateful for y'all's leadership, and I mean, we want to do more for it. So I know we're going to protect what you have as we talk in the future about rebuilding our junior high and make sure that you have what you need to make this an even bigger and better program. So I'd certainly welcome any other comments from trustees. Mrs. Crane.
Hi, thank you very much for doing this. I think I know you guys know this because I've talked about it a lot, and I sing the praises of this program far and wide. But my son was in the inaugural year, and I think one of the things that we don't talk about a lot, besides giving the kids the job experience and that, is he was the kind of kid who was not going to do well sitting down, looking forward, and learning that way. So he looked at construction tech as a way to kind of be active and learn and do that, and he did that. But it also gave him something that we also don't talk about. It gave him an incredible amount of confidence. Just this last year, we took him to buy a house, and as we were looking through all these houses, I'm walking in thinking, oh, you can't buy that. And he says, no. He goes, I can do that. I can fix that part. I can do that. And the funniest part, and this goes to speak towards the relationships, is the house he did buy, it needs a new deck, and he says to me, that's fine, I'll call Mr. Wyckoff, he can help me. And I said, you can't do that. He said, no. He goes, I can, I really can.
Good.
I know, and he knows, so he might. So, so thank you.
Other comments?
So I think
Mr.
one
Hyde.
of the unique pieces of our program is just really how young we've started. A lot of the programs tend to deal with older students, not so much junior high students. Do we have a chance to go even younger and get kids involved at an earlier age in the future?
We have Dan Carpenter Jr. We all know big Dan Carpenter, the football coach. Well, this guy's only half the size of him, literally. But he runs the 8th grade/9th grade technology program, and he's, in my opinion, he's hands down awesome. We got to do whatever we can for that kid. He is just a great guy. He comes in, he wants to know how are you doing stuff. Hey, if you have any lessons, I can steal from you. He's eager, he's passionate, he's the kind of person we want in Clarkston. So, at that level, I know for sure. I think Miss Patton at Sashua, she's doing a great job with the STEM. So there are steps. I'm not fully aware of everything they do at the lower level, but there are steps to get to us.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, in terms of options for our students and helping them find their passion, I think it's certainly evident that you have found that niche, and certainly with y'all's leadership, it's just become one of the premier programs that we offer. So thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
And our last presentation this evening is a K-8 data progress report. Wendy Osterman.
Good evening. Wow, those were some really amazing presentations. I'm just in awe. What's really cool is that this is actually my second time replacing Neil up here, or replacing him, taking his spot. Actually, when I was hired in back in 2004, it was when Neil retired and there was an opening in the engineering and tech. and I actually started in that position. So following Neil again here tonight, kind of cool. And he's definitely has some big shoes to fill, both then and now. So that was great. That was great. So I am going to be sharing K through 8 progress report for you tonight. It's very similar to the presentation that was shared last year, which happened to be on Valentine's Day last year. So we had a nice little data evening on Valentine's Day last year. So this year on January 23rd, a little bit earlier. So some background information about what I'm sharing is that this data that's being shared tonight is a requirement from the Michigan Department of Education. It was implemented last year as part of the Return to Learn. Public Act 48 requires that we share this data, and they're very specific with what it is that we are sharing and how we break down the data as well, and when it's shared. So they expect it to be shared by the first Board of Education meeting in February. So we're a little bit early with it this year. The data that's being shared is primarily FastBridge data. That's our benchmark assessment, and we are in our second year of using this assessment. Previously, we used both Renaissance Star and iReady, and we had a committee that looked at various assessment systems and chose FastBridge. They all are fairly similar and have strengths and weaknesses. Basically, they are used to determine if students are making progress towards grade level expectations in both reading and in math. The data itself is primarily used by our teachers and our academic coaches and our interventionists to determine next steps in instruction. And I also want you to know that time is devoted to dig into this data on professional learning days as well as during professional PLCs, professional learning communities. So for the Michigan Department of Education's Return to Learn requirement, back a couple years ago, we were required to have goals that we had to submit, and it was in response to COVID. So additionally, besides writing the goals, the district took a huge action step led by Nancy Mahoney for our CCS elementary support plan, which also uses these goals. So the goals that were written really were to look at some short-term goals and then some longer-term goals. So our first goals were that we would have a 2-year expectation that we would try to meet our 2019, our pre-COVID data with our MSTEP proficiency scores in ELA and math. And then our 5-year expectation, our longer-term goal, was to surpass that pre-COVID proficiency levels. So back in the fall, I know that Nancy shared some progress on our support plan that included some of our MSTEP data, and I'll just kind of remind you guys that we did actually meet that first goal with ELA, and we actually did hit that 58%. In fact, we actually got a little above it, 58.8%. And with math, we made gains from the previous year, and we're still working towards that goal. So now what's really great is that in ELA, we can start moving on to that longer-term goal. We always want to make sure that we have continuous improvement. We always want to just keep on raising those scores and taking action to do that. But today's presentation will focus on benchmark assessment. So MSTEP is a state required assessment, it's accountability, and we're going to be focusing in on our benchmark assessments, again, as part of that MDE requirement. So just as a side note, the Michigan Department of Education requires that the data is shared based on all students as well as subgroup populations that are indicated on this slide. All of this data will also be shared on our transparency page of our website. The testing window for this FastBridge data was September 19th through the 30th. So the data has been divided here into K1 and in grades 2 through 8. And the reason why I divided it up is because in K1, the students take a one-to-one screener where they sit down with a teacher. That way we don't have to worry about the computer abilities of our kindergarten and first grade students. As you can imagine, logging in, usernames, passwords can be a little bit of a challenge. In grades 2 through 8, they use a computer adaptive test that is about 20 minutes. It is not a time test, however. So based on this data and looking at all students, the way that FastBridge looks at the data is it categorizes students into risk categories. It has low risk, and the low risk is divided up in, they also have this college pathway that they call it with our low risk students, which basically takes the lowest risk students and it compares them to other students, and it's the highest of those students. It also has categories of high risk and some risk. So the low risk is where you want to be. That means that they are at low risk of not meeting the benchmarks. So 68% of our kindergarten and first grade students are likely to achieve reading benchmarks with minimal support. These are the students that are in that low risk category. That's really good. And 69% of our 2nd through 8th graders. For math, we see 80% of our kindergarten and first graders that are in that low risk category, or students that are likely to achieve the math benchmarks, the grade level benchmarks, with minimal support, and 75% of students at grades 2 through 8. So, although it's not a requirement by the Michigan Department of Education to report this data, this slide shows a look at last year's data compared to this year's data. This is really good news on this slide. We are seeing evidence of improvement. Now, because the kindergarten through first grade students took a one-to-one assessment, I divided this up. And the reason why is because in the fall of 2021, as you remember, we were still really struggling with the impact of COVID. We weren't sure if we would even have students in person. We weren't sure, and every day was changing. And so as a district, we opted to not have the one-to-one assessment. That way, if necessary, students could take the assessment at home. So we did the computerized version for our kindergarten and first grade students. So this year, because we didn't do that and we did the one-to-one, I separated the data just so that we could kind of remember that we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples here. So in the fall of 2021, we had 60% that were in that low risk category, where this fall, we had 68% of the kindergarten first graders and 69% of the 2nd through 8th graders. So that's something to celebrate for sure. And then when we're looking at math, we had 69% in the fall of 2021, and then in the fall of 2022, we had that 80% for kindergarten first and 75% for 2nd through 8th graders. So this is very exciting and encouraging. I really think that it's probably because of the wonderful support plan that we have in place with our coaches and our interventionists. So another thing that we are required to report are testing details by mode of instruction. So when looking at which students took the assessment, 4,899 total students completed the reading screener, and 752 students were instructed virtually in the fall of those 4,899. And 4,703 total students completed the math screener, and of those, 727 students were instructed virtually in the fall. The differences are really related to absences and alternate assessments based on students' IEPs if the assessment is not an appropriate one. So what's next? Well, we started our winter screening window today. It started off pretty well. And we also have a spring screener as well. So the screener periods are 2 weeks, with the third week being for makeup. And then our subject area coordinators and coaches are continuing to work with teachers to use this data to really drive instruction. Like I said, screener data really is about looking at students' growth and progress. And so the best use of this data is really to give it to the teachers and make sure that they understand it, have the coaches, the subject area coordinators help them, and really use it to drive instruction and make sure that our kiddos get the support that they want or need.
Trustees, are there
That's
any questions or comments for Mrs. Osterman?
I do have a couple of questions,
Yeah.
just being new. Just going back to the goals, when were these academic support plan goals implemented?
These were implemented after COVID.
When, like what month or year?
I wasn't here at the time, but I believe that the state, I believe that the state required that they were turned in by, I want to say January of 2021 or December of 2020. It was during that initial year that we were kind of back.
Okay, so the 2-year goal, is that about where we are now? Is that
The 2-year goal would have been from 2021 to 2023. So our hope was that the 2-year goal was really about the support plan and when that was initiated, and so that would be with the 2021 school year. So it really would be 2023, but like I said, we hit it for ELA, so now we're moving on to the next goal.
okay? And then you'll share the next goal at the, like, after that school year ends, or when do you reevaluate your goals?
Yeah, these goals were what had to be reported to the state, but our goals are just always to just keep on improving.
Okay, great. And then where are we with math? I think you said we're a little short still in the math. What?
Yeah, so with math, we are at 51.2%, and the previous year in 2021, we were at 44.6. So we've made great strides.
Okay, thank you so much.
Other questions or comments? Very good.
Just as an addition, we're going to continue to come back to the board with updates in relationship to the broader spectrum of data that we're collecting and how it immediately ties into the goals as far as our strategic plan and that continued growth model. I am definitely not satisfied with being ahead of the state or ahead of the county. I am satisfied with the idea that we move in a direction of magnitude, that we're moving up, even if everybody's moving down. I'm not going to spend too much time looking at the people going down because I'm not going to learn much from that, neither will our team. But I think the name of the game is to get everybody across that line.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's for all categories of students, whether in special education, general ed, or however we want to get all of our kids across the line. Nancy Mahoney.
And to our board, I don't know if this magnificent lady right here was introduced properly, but I'd like to introduce Dr. Wendy Osterman. She did conclude her doctoral work at Oakland University just recently. She graduated. Her research, her capstone project is really lifting up the work of our interventionists and our coaches and what they're doing to service our children. So I know we're going to be tapping into her expertise, and with the expectation that all kids are going to continue to grow and exceed. And so I'm just super excited to continue to partner with Wendy, and I just wanted to celebrate her work.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Thank you. Dr. Osterman.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Anything else?
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Osterman?
Thank you.
We'll move on to action items. 6.1 is approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Any questions or comments regarding the personnel sheets or for Mr. Lucido? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.2 is approval of the cube van and trailer for the construction tech program. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the purchase of a cube van and closed trailer for the construction tech program not to exceed $85,000 as presented.
Support. Well, I think we certainly heard adequately what the goals and vision is for our construction tech program and how this vehicle can be put to use right away. Are there any additional questions that the construction tech team or anyone can answer?
Will these be like REMC bid items, or are we going to take bids for these?
We're gonna go for bids, the lowest that we can get.
Okay.
In the classification. I think we're also gonna examine if there's the possibility to buy a slightly gently used version to get an even a better deal. But right now, the reason this was kind of a priority to get done now is we were looking originally to complete this in the spring, summer. And I met with the gentleman as part of, next steps, and I said, when do we need to start that? And they said, yesterday. Based on the market right now for both used and new vehicles and wanting to procure for the program for strong as this fall, they were very strong opinion that we got rolling immediately.
That's great. If we do bids, that I'm fully on board approving the motion and moving forward with it, but I think we should approve the bids, even if it's retroactively.
Yes, we'll
as a
bring back
function
the
of our board.
bids that we get for that.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. You get your van. Item 6.3 is approval of equipment upgrades for the boardroom and Independence Television Video Center Board. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the purchase of equipment from Key Code Media to upgrade the boardroom broadcast equipment for a total of $25,675.50 as presented.
Support.
Mr. Heyer, as our board liaison to the Independence Television Video Board, could you just summarize sort of the plan? Our materials mention a capital improvement plan and how a request like this comes to us.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you. For your recollection, the Independence TV program was created with a intergovernmental agreement between Independence Township and the Clarkston School District.
You were
It is.
Yeah.
That intergovernmental agreement and program is funded by a capital lease that Clarkston Schools and Independence TV has with the township that allows us to use PEG fees and fund our video center board. The township funds a station manager. We fund a teacher that is our video center manager on our side. And kind of the concept is during the day, the video center is used for curricular and educational purposes, and in the evening, it's used for community purposes. Part of what the Independence TV funds is all of the television station equipment, studio, broadcast needs on site, and then we have some mobile components as well that go out to different events that allow video to take place in the community. There's also equipment for like basketball games and football games and things that get used in that capacity as well. The township boardroom is on our capital improvement plan, and this boardroom is on the capital improvement plan. So our cameras that are in this room, I believe, were paid for from the 03 bond. So I think we bought them at 05-ish, and there's at least one of them that isn't working completely. And there's some other challenges. Apparently, there's some challenges with the audio in this room as well. Although I don't think that is on the list here. But this comes from those Independence TV funds. It is part of the master equipment plan that has some replacements taking place every year on really, it's not a cycle exactly because each piece of equipment has a different life to it. We just upgraded all of our studio equipment to be HD and a little more technologically advanced as some of the older equipment was failing, and then obviously the more life we get out of it, the longer that the new stuff will last.
Okay. questions or comments? Mr. Heyer?
I just wanted to make a comment. I know just people like myself, when I first read this, when you say PEG funds, can you just explain that a little bit? Because I'm not sure if anybody or everybody understands at home, that it's not actually coming from the school's budget. It's a separate.
It is technically, it is a special revenue fund that we budget for,
For the general.
and it doesn't come from the general fund. That would be accurate. PEG fees is an agreement the township has with our local cable provider, and I can't speak to that contract because I have no purview over that, but they stand for Public Education Government is what PEG stands for. So if you pay a cable bill still, there's one line item on that cable bill that says PEG fees. It probably says Public Education Government. That goes into a fund that the township gets contractually. And so those funds have shrunk every year. I'm not sure if you're aware, but less and less people have cable TV at home, and consequently, less and less people are paying into that PEG fund. So part of our goal as a school district and township and Independence TV board collectively is to evaluate other ways to fund this when PEG fees are not able to do that. So far, we're sustaining that, but that is not something that we would see going forward in perpetuity.
Great. Other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.4 is approval of Link Financial and Accounting System proposal. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the Link 3-year agreement for a total of $196,431 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I know there was a question provided early asking about whether or not this was a change, and it is not a change. Alio, our current system, is it acquired or merged into Link, and so this is just a contract replacing now that the name of the company is changing. Did I characterize that correctly, Mr. Lucido? Okay.
I do have one quick question.
Yes,
Are
Ms.
there
Egan?
going to be any data transfer costs, or is that just part of this? No data, okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So this is really just continuing on with what we have already, just under the new name of Link instead of Alio. Okay. All right, seeing no additional questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 7 is report items. We have none tonight. And item 8 is discussion items. We have one item for discussion, our budget assumptions and parameters. Mrs. Rogers is here to lead us through that as we begin in earnest the budget cycle for the upcoming year. So, Mrs. Rogers.
So this prior January 13th Friday was our first real step in the budgeting process for 2023-24. That was the revenue consensus. It did come in, if you haven't heard, in very positive news. Both the general fund for the state of Michigan and the school aid fund for the state of Michigan are both exceeding by over 10%, exceeding what they originally expected, and that's mainly that we've had higher sales tax, we've brought in more revenue with use tax, sales tax, state aid, education taxes. All the taxes have done better than expected. So that's the first step, which is good news, because then that means we should be getting from the state hopefully a healthy foundation increase. That we don't know yet. That'll happen in mid-February when the governor presents her budget, and then she should be, at that time, will be giving us her expected or projected foundation allowance increase. This will be the first year that we've, in a long time, when we have all parties are Democratic, so there shouldn't be a lot, there should be quite a bit of agreement, we're assuming. Now, in March and April, usually around April comes out the Senate and the House foundation allowance. Then there will be the revenue consensus, which usually revenue consensus happens in May, and then the conference committee in May that takes all three foundation allowance and budgets together, and then we should, hopefully for the first time in several years, have a budget by June 1st. Because the last few years we've had to pass our budgets in June without knowing our foundation allowances. So right now, we thought we would start the talks in January, as there is going to be some decisions that have to be made, as our COVID funding will fall off at the end of this school year. So basically, the first row, if you look, is the board approved budget. If I can go up a little bit, I wanted to show the assumptions that were made. We have the slide it up. Thanks. Yes, there you go. So basically, the board approved in June 100 student loss, 43 gain in open enrollment, and 3.5% benefit changes, 0% retirement rate, and a $435 foundation increase. That's what you approved in June. Now, if you go to the second column, that's going to be when I bring the amendment to you in March. We are looking at a 67 loss, which is better than what the board approved of 100. 41 gain, that's really close. And then the state foundation actually came out in September, and it was a 450. So it was just $15 more than what we approved in June. So, and then if you go out to 23, 24, and 24, 25, and basically what we're really going to be talking about is the 23, 24 budget in the next 6 months. You, we're at this moment saying let's go with 100, unless the board feels different. 43 in open enrollment, and then we are looking at a $400 increase right now until we know what the governor's going to tell us. We believe it's going to be a good one because of the positive news from January revenue consensus. And then if you go out further year, we just do 200 just because it's so hard to predict as you go further out where the state economy is going to be. So those are all the assumptions, and we're going to be asking you to think over whether you want to discuss it tonight or think about it over the next few months, what you feel should be those assumptions for 23, 24. These are just our initial recommendations. So do you have any questions before I move on where we're at with revenue and expenses?
Any questions about the assumptions? These have held fairly steady for a while, so that's why we wanted to start this conversation now, after Ms. Rogers finishes her summary for us, and see how comfortable we are with those assumptions. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we go into the revenue, and the first column is just our budget. That's what you've approved in June. That's what we're working off of right now. In March, like I said, I will bring you an amendment. At this point, I try to keep that updated at all times. So this is where we're at this point. The foundation, we see a little bit more. We'll see about $500,000 more revenue because of the $15 more increase. We didn't lose as many kids as we thought we would lose. The shared service in the virtual academy, that's just getting us to our 10% growth that we're realizing in shared service, which takes us to 1,276 FTE that we're allowed to receive funding for. And then the virtual academy, that's where we're at right now. We were pretty much right on with that one, just a little bit of a reduction. The $400,000 is increase in at-risk funding that the state gave us in November, and then we're realizing it's still going to stay the 400. So that is higher than what we've received in the past in at-risk allocation. We don't get our at-risk allocation initially until like November. So we always just have to go with the prior year allocation until we know. So that's $400,000 more. We're hoping to be able to use that funding to sustain things that we're already expending money on. As the COVID money is falling off, this $400,000 can help fund some of those items that the COVID won't be able to fund anymore. ISD special ed funding, that's your IDEA funding and your allocation through their millage. We usually don't know the exact, they give us an estimated allocation that we do the June budget on, but then we get more finalized allocations. And we, at this point, from what we've seen the ISD, it's another almost $300,000 more in that funding bucket. And then we have we received the 353, the majority of that is a $350,000 Oakland County Mental Health Grant that we were awarded end of December, first part of January. We just were awarded this. It's mental health. It'll cover 2 new social workers, 2 new psychologists, and a nurse. So it'll be in and out, but it is money that will help with the mental health. You'll see a lot of mental health revenue is going to be coming in the next 6 months. This is just one of the grants we definitely know we're getting, and we've been awarded it through Oakland County. And then we have some ARP IDEA funding revenue that we were supposed to receive last year, didn't receive it in time, so we're receiving it this year. So I added that back in the budget. So that shows right now about just under 2.4 million increase in revenue from the 116 million that you approved in June. Any questions on the revenue before we move on to where we're at with expenses?
Any questions at this point?
For this year. Okay.
Makes sense? Please continue.
Yeah, so then these are the changes we'll see in expenses. The big number, the 1.7, is the contractual obligations that the board approved in December for the new contracts that we didn't know in June. So that'll fund this part of the June to the June 30th, or January to June 30th. And then we just have, when we increase the revenue, usually we'll see increase in expenditures, and then we had some increase in costs in the curriculum for the virtual academy. So that's where we feel our expenses right now will go up about 2.5 million from what you approved in June. And this will it keeps our estimated budget surplus around the same amount, just over almost 2.6 million. You had about 2.7, so it's pretty similar. When I bring in March, I'm hoping to have it back up to the 2.7 or higher, but that's where I feel like we're at right now, with an estimated fund balance of 19.5 million, 17%. So our fund balance has been growing really healthy on all this one-time funding we're receiving. Now where you will see, if we go back up, where you'll see go to the revenue for 23-24, we've implemented the $400 increase, the 100 student loss. That gets you the 2.167 million. Shared service growing at 10%, and the virtual academy growing 100 FTE. So that's that revenue we're bringing in. And then this is where you'll see the state funding, the federal COVID funding starting to fall off. It's 6.2 million fall off. I haven't been told of any more new funding we're going to be getting. So 6.2 will fall off at 23-24. We've spent it. It'll be gone. And then 24-25 is some leftover summer school and after school program that we're going to spend. All this money has to be spent by September 30th, 2024. So you'll see the 2 negatives. So then all that money will be out of our budget. Same with the 431.3, that was one-time ARP funding for special ed. It's one time, so it'll be gone out of next year's budget. So then that puts us with a negative revenue right now for next year of 1.4 million. Now, our increases in expenditures, we've got the increase in health insurance that is expected to come in, and then human resources, that's our contractual obligations that we've made with all of our groups as our contracts don't expire until 2025. And then the shared service and the virtual academy, when we increase the revenue, we have to increase the expenses because we make 30% and 50% profits on these programs. So we have to increase the expenditures. So we increase those expenditures to make it 30% and 50%. If you go up to the revenue, you'll see the revenue's a little bit higher in the shared service, and the revenue's a little bit higher, and go down, and that's where you'll see. And then that just makes our profit margin. That is increasing our expenditure 6.2 million. This puts us into a large deficit if we don't because of losing the COVID funding, and now you got negative revenue, but you got increase in expenditures. So at this point, if we put in a 4 million, anywhere between 2 million and 5 million, we as an administration team plugged in a -4, meaning we'll do something with our budget, whether it's revenue enhancements, expenditure reductions, some type of restructuring. We're going to try to cut 4 million, asking if we do this, that we'd end up with about 16%, a little bit of deficit spending, as we've built it up to 17%. So we're comfortable with a couple of years of deficit spending. So, and then 24-25 just takes you out to 14% fund balance if we do this reduction. This is at this point, I don't know if John wants to come talk to you at all about, or if you have any questions about what we're proposing as we start the conversation.
Go ahead, Ms. Egan.
Could we get a projection on enrollment, kind of refresher? Is this $100 student loss, is that still pretty accurate, or I know we looked at that chart a couple months ago.
So Plant Moran this year had us down 27. Next year they're projecting us down 8, 45, and then 33. I mean, it's always been off, even when we project out our birth rates and the impact that has, but we think 100, it's probably conservative, a little bit based off the past couple years and what they're projecting.
Okay.
But not much. It's probably prudent to put something in there like that. In the 43 we've been getting for open enrollment, we get a couple that sprinkle in there because for those programs that are, our numbers are declining in them, like CS and Tech and IB, we've tried to get kids to come out from outside the district to fill those. But really, most of that has been our kindergarten. We get 25, and then the last couple of years we've come back and asked for more slots to be open, but that's really where those are coming from.
Thank you.
Mrs. Egan, I had kind of the same thought of maybe enrollment net zero, where we get some gains in our open enrollment, but we lose some students. I would be more comfortable there, and maybe slightly more conservative on the 400 was my thinking.
The good news about the 400 is that we're hoping in February the governor should make within her speech a pretty accurate stab what that number is going to be, with probably within a couple marks. So we can put any number you guys want in there and in the enrollment, and then as we move towards March, the goal of myself and the team would just be to continue to ratchet it up tighter and tighter as we get closer and closer information from Lansing.
And just for our new board member, we don't really have to sum the approved budget up until June 30th. So we have plenty of time. It's just really these assumptions that we work off of. So.
Just as a greater philosophical discussion, I mean, obviously I'd like to see us in a position where we're, a renowned place where we're not expecting a loss of 100 every year. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that that's where we're at. I know it's a statewide problem with declining enrollment. Birth rates and things have to do with it, but yeah, it's kind of sad to see that it's kind of an assumption every year that we're going to keep losing. Because I know in your last presentation, a lot of the programs that we do offer in Clarkston are kind of based off this 7,000 mark, and the farther we get away from that, the more we're in trouble.
And I do think we, across from the high school parking lot, we do see these housing starts, which look like we can be bringing in some new families, hopefully with some school-age children. So that has been part of what has kind of held us at a point where we haven't grown. So I think we're kind of back in that growth spurt again, hopefully. So hopefully we won't be
I feel given the enrollment presentation we've had the last couple of years, I feel like we're getting close to that net zero mark, picking up some students and having a few students move around and maybe lose a few students, but the transient nature of moving programs seems to have subsided.
Right. It's like we've bottomed out a little, or
Yeah.
we're getting close to that bottom point.
And I mean, people have not been building homes in the last 10 years, so, you know, that is something that was very positive that won't affect right away, but I think longer term it will. I would just say on the, it's been some time since we've talked about budget reductions or revenue enhancements, and I would say as a board, you know, we have a fund equity policy, you know, that says we don't want to go below 10%, we don't want to borrow. And so I think, you know, I'd be fine getting there knowing we have all this one-time money, you know, in fund equity that we still have to allocate and deal with. But the you know, if this is a 2 or 3 year plan, you know, a lot of times we look at and pigeonhole ourselves of like, all right, we have between now and June to come up with something that we can implement next year. You know, if there's things that we can look a little more long term, whether it's a 2-year, you know, change, it's maybe even a 3-year change or something we can ramp up or ramp out of. I would put all those, you know, kind of options at the table at this point where we're early on. And I know, Dr. Ryan, your team is always thinking in terms of if we had to do this, what would that look like? How do we keep those impacts away from students as much as possible? And I know you have some ideas on that already, but just I would think, you know, bigger picture, if we wanted to make changes in some of the things to keep those impacts away. If it took a while to implement that, I think as a board, we would want to entertain that as well, even though we're budgeting a year at a time.
And that's helpful. And Mr. Lucido is actually going to run through a couple scenarios looking at it. Again, this is still very early forecasting, but we just try to get good communication between our administration board and then making sure our community hears these as well. And the numbers can change. And the strange thing, even on the enrollment side, is although, you know, it looked like Plant Moran, most of the outside organizations who evaluated Clarkston say that right about now, in the next year or two, we're supposed to hit kind of a certain stability where we're supposed to go up just a handful of students for the next 25 years. So when we hit that, that'll be nice. And the other point is that, you know, with our shared service and our other partnerships on the books, as a report to the state, we've actually continued to increase enrollment every year based on those. I mean, the fear to me, or the good point that you made, Trustee Love, in regards to looking at the stability of internal enrollment, is just to be able to have horsepower to offer the range of programs. You know, there's like a max V to where, you know, if we don't have sustainability, because we have 25, 30 really cool programs in part of the water here, but we have to have the kids in them to be able to make them go every year. So thank you. Mr. Lucido, you give some insights as well.
Any other questions from this or comments initially from that end of the table?
Just one question. Do we see any potential for more mental health grants once these go away? I mean, it seems like that's not that problem or the issues that we have.
Currently, like I said, we know we've been awarded, we're going to receive the money for this $350 from Oakland County, which is the COVID funding that we just found out. We have 310, which is state funding. We are in the midst of the first round of that we received last year. We're continuing to receive that. There's supposed to be a second round of 310 coming out, but we probably won't know that until like February or March. There is, under source that I've heard, pretty good that's coming out. And there is a 31 AA mental health funding that is estimated to be around 109 per pupil that the governor put in this year's budget. It hasn't been allocated yet. We don't know the amount yet. We haven't even applied for it yet. That is supposed to be coming out in the next month or so. They keep telling us. There's a lot of future funding. It's just getting the state to tell us what those amounts are and when we can start applying for them. But we also have the issue of it's hard to hire the individuals, but I know they're working hard on getting as many individuals as they can hire for these funds. Good point.
Mr. Lucido, why don't you go ahead and say if you had something to add, and we'll kind of keep responding.
We have an opportunity with our shared service. We're carrying a lot of expense. We think we could run that program more efficiently. So we're looking at doing a good chunk of that we're hoping around 50% potentially. We're still in the early stages of this, but I think we could remove a significant amount of expense. We've historically carried, they have a 10% growth cap, and you guys have seen that on here, it's in our assumptions. We've carried more than that for the last few years, and we think if we have some plans to kind of really use that and getting closer to right where we're at without carrying extra expense. We've been scared in the past to not have our 10% growth every year, so we've kept some of that in the bank to use for future years. But I think when we need to make an adjustment with this to offset the one-time money that we've had, it's a good time for us to really look and eliminate a lot of that expense. So we're looking for that to be, quite a bit. And to be honest, our class sizes and some of the things that we've had, we haven't even gotten back to like pre-COVID times of some of our class sizes and that. So I think we could hit the 4 million without, it'd be like devastating to our school district or me here with a list of cuts. That's definitely our plan. We think the reduction in expenses of some of our special programming could get us about 50%. And then just to give you like a framework, like last year to start in the spring, we cut 12 teaching positions. We cut some other jobs too, but we ended up down 9. So, and we do that when you're losing students. Technically, you probably for every 25 kids should be reducing to make sure that you're staffed appropriately. So, but that's kind of where we're at. We really just as we start to get with this, we really wanted the feedback from the board on what those assumptions were to make sure that that's what we're going to build all of this off and the targets that we're going to try and hit. So.
I just had one more comment.
Please, go ahead.
I think even based on the last presentation, obviously we're still not even where we were pre-COVID, but I think that we are bucking the state's trend in our numbers are increasing instead of continuing to decline. And from what I'm hearing, it's attributed mainly to these academic interventionists, math and reading interventionists and coaches. So I just want to say a plug. I know a lot of those people were brought in with those COVID funds. I would just think that would be the absolute last place where we would cut any funding would be to those interventionists and coaches.
I think we'd all support that notion. I mean, we've seen the results already, and I think we expect even more results too. So I think we know that that's a program that's working and that we haven't even fulfilled it yet. We haven't even, extended it into the secondary level yet. So I know that's something that I think we all support and want to see grow. So thank you for that.
And just a point of clarity there, I mean, all of those things we had in the works well before COVID, right? COVID just happened to hit and we needed them even more. And they were permissible uses of those funds, but we're going to find a way to pay for all those things anyway. So we know we have to continue to pay for those, and that's not negotiable because that's one of the things that, when you talk about how school districts work, every 2.5 years, the average school district has a new superintendent. They're going in a radically new direction. They're changing things. You never actually get to realize the benefit of any of the things they have in place. And so when we put these things in place a few years ago, or even before the pandemic, when we were on the on-ramp to get to these interventions and support systems, at that point we said, hey, we want to go the full 10 years. We want to get to a point where we really see the value, the benefit, the results, the outcomes of these things. And we are so fortunate to be 2 or 3 years in and start to see some of those, but that's not good enough. We want to run, the full course. And that doesn't mean we won't course correct or tweak or, find some better options along the way, but, a radically different direction, is not on the table for, something that we see that's working, I think. And I think that's important for us to remember that, especially as we have a new member, we do not want to mess this up going forward. When you find something that works, we can improve upon it, but we certainly don't want to get away from that.
So far, in terms of looking at the assumptions, I've heard a couple of things. I've heard it proposed, and I'd be curious what others of you think, that maybe we look at more of a net zero effect in terms of student count, in terms of enrollment, instead of right now we have a negative effect there in the budget between the 100 student gain and the 100 loss and the 43 gain. But it was mentioned that perhaps we look at making that for next year more of a net zero.
I would be comfortable too, even if it were just a little bit somewhat negative, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, again, it's conservative and we still don't know, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 50 or 60.
If we cut the
Negative?
student count in half, no, if we cut the student
Loss.
count in half, instead of the assumption being 100
Instead of
loss,
100 loss, just make it 50.
she's proposing a 50 loss.
So it would be 7.
Yeah, so right now we'd be looking at a,
Gives us a little.
so that was one element.
So I guess from a
do you
parameter
think?
standpoint, I'd rather say as a board, dear superintendent, we want it to be 0. That's our parameter, that's our expectation, like, please make it happen. You know, and if it comes in down 10 or up 10 or, you know, I mean, budgetary wise on, you know, 119 million, that's really not gonna change much, but, you know, I feel like we've got to set a target if we want to hit it, and, you know, I don't think that's a stretch, given where we are.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents. I'd be happy to support 50 with a 43 gain, if that's where we want to go.
I mean, nobody has the crystal ball, so, I mean, I can go with 0. I wouldn't mind putting in like 10 student loss, but again, we're kind of starting to split hairs at that level, so.
Yeah, financially.
Yeah.
Brandon County, okay.
I think the team would be fine with a 50 loss and a 43 pickup on there, and I think that's definitely in the ballpark for this year. And obviously, as it comes in more data, we'll adjust this 5 times between now and August.
Okay. All right, so that's where we'll start. The other piece that I have heard some discussion on is the state funding changes in terms of our per pupil increase. And right now, there's a $400 increase placeholder in there, but it's been indicated to us that perhaps that number may be higher based on what comes out. So in terms of parameter, do we want a number in there, or at this moment, do we want to just align with what the proposal is?
I'm good waiting until we get the,
Okay. And we'll know that in a matter of weeks, correct? And in terms of assumptions, really, I think those are the 2 big ones that we have some room for. I think everything else, if there were going to be significant changes in terms of benefits, retirement rates, you would be coming to us and telling us about that, correct?
I have not received our benefit rates for next year, but I do, we have these in there because these are the assumptions that we've kind of been working off of. I do think, all of our collective bargaining agreements, we have a 50-50 split between the district and the employees up to a 7%, and then anything beyond that, we're picking up 75% of the cost. But I might be prudent to put that closer to 5%. But we can also wait with that. We'll have more information. It's just that's the way the healthcare is trending, just with inflation. I will know that probably. I would say end of March. I will know for sure.
All right, so if you would recommend any benefit change, any change in that 3% rate, which you've got in there right now?
Really, the number we need to probably agree most on at this point is that
That's the big one.
the reduction piece.
Yeah.
And I mean that $4 million is 3.3% or something. I mean it seems like a big number because it's not a number I deal with every day, but it's a minor portion of our total budget. So I mean I'd be comfortable saying that's the target. I mean you mentioned that 2 to 5 range. I mean closer to the 4 is what I think we probably need to show. And if we split, if we go to 5 or 6 and we're splitting it over 2 years, something like that, I think as a board we'd probably be very comfortable with that.
and our fund equity is still healthy, so I don't think we have to do that all in 1 year. I think that's not a bad idea.
No, I mean we have to and we want to spend down our fund equity because the funds are there for kids and the supports and all the things that we got those one-time funds for. But we certainly don't want to get to a point where we have a cliff, right? We don't want to get to 1 year and think, oh man, we need to cut $20 million because we just kept spending and didn't pay attention to what we were getting. I mean, so I think doing this in steps over a period of time just to make sure we're not out of whack there as the one-time money goes away, I think is the right way to do it. I think we're on the same page there, which is why you brought this to us.
Yeah.
We need that sort of ramp to get where we want to go, not the cliff.
All right, can I just look down the list? Comfortable with that? Are we with a consensus there in terms of close to a net zero? What did we say, 50 and 43 in terms of student count, aligning with the governor's per pupil when it comes out, keeping an eye on benefit changes, maybe revisiting that in a couple of months. Comfortable with a $4 million planned expenditure reduction, but looking at doing it over a couple of years. Those are kind of the high level assumptions. Everybody comfortable with that in terms of direction?
I would just clarify that if it's over a couple of years, it's probably a little more than $4 million.
You want to go higher? I mean, no, you don't want to go higher.
No.
If it's going to be higher, we want to look at multiple year spend down.
Because I mean, we're still going to deficit spend for 2 or 3 years, and hopefully we continue to underspend as we go. That gets more difficult as we budget tighter and tighter, but I'd much rather underspend than overspend.
Okay. All right. So
Message received.
I'm seeing consensus there. Okay. Thank you very much.
And I guess with the expenditure reductions, if we're doing things like tightening shared service and, you know, sort of efficiency kinds of things that are, you know, we're dealing with attrition, you know, that is not raising class sizes significantly. If we're doing those things, even if our assumptions, you know, maybe we get $600 a kid and, you know, we are looking at less of a benefits change or something. If things move our way, I would say I still want to make those reductions if they're not getting in the way of kids, because that pushes out how long we can go before we have to do anything that directly impacts the classroom. So, you know, I think we'd rather carry some fund equity along the way if that means we're keeping our supports and our systems in place, you know, longer.
Okay. Agreed. Understood.
Okay. Thank you, board. Item 9 is citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to address the board at this time on any topic. If you would like to address the board, now is your time to please come sign up as Mrs. Mahoney is heading over toward the sheet. Thank you so much. I have one citizen who would like to address us this evening, Molly Thornberry. Okay, Mrs. Thornberry, give me 1 minute here to pull up the timer. I'm sorry about that, but that is our policy. And so if you'll state your name and address, and when you start speaking, you'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. My name is Molly Thornberry.
Would you step just a little closer to the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Molly Thornberry. I live 5191 Sashpaw Road. My daughter Olive goes to Pine Knob Elementary. She's in first grade there.
Thank you.
Absolutely loves it. Okay, Pine Knob is amazing. Friday and Thursday last week were half days of school. And I know that 11:31 is the dismissal time for Pine Knob. However, my daughter's school bus does not pick her up from school until 11:57. 26 minutes. My daughter, up until today, I didn't know where she was. Gym, classroom, I don't know. I didn't know she was on a bus, if there had been an accident. All I am told is that the buses tend to run late. Okay? Transportation literally cannot get to Pine Knob Elementary to pick up my daughter until 11:57. That's 26 minutes that I don't know what's happening with my daughter. It's a large hole and scary that I don't know, because you know what I'm doing? Standing at the bus stop for a half an hour in the freezing cold, watching as cars fly by. This is a huge concern for me and a lot of parents who are waiting 20 minutes, half an hour for our children to get off that bus. We're texting, we're like, where's the bus? We don't know, because we're not told anything but the buses are running late. Call transportation, they're not running late. The bus drivers are on time. Their schedules do not allow them to get to the school in
Thank you so much. I'm sorry the 2 minutes, but yeah, Dr. Ryan, could we have someone please look into her situation a little more in terms of the half day and the transportation and how that's working and follow up,
I
please?
received an email from it, and I'm just actually coming back to work tonight.
I did hear about
So
that.
Mr.
I
Lucido.
hope you're doing well.
No, it's okay. I did have Mr. Lucido reach out. We can have further conversations
Yes, it
about
was a-
that. So
Okay.
Yes.
we're on it as far
Yes.
as
Yes,
further
it was the
further
Eltron,
conversations. So thank you.
I love her.
Great.
Thank you guys
Okay.
for listening to me.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
to speak to us tonight. Appreciate it. I had no other citizens who had signed up to address this evening, so we will look at our information items. Our next Board of Education meeting is Monday, February 13th. Right now, trustees, we have a workshop scheduled at 6 p.m. on secondary coaching, and we will have our regular business meeting at 7 p.m. Item 11 is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries and we are adjourned. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the